intensified when like traveling by car or by train. Like this experiencing of life, like kind of like a movie happening within like boundless space, and that's still pretty fucking terrifying to me, in a way.
What's terrifying about that, brother?
It's a good question. I can't actually answer it. Maybe just the fact that there's first it's so infinitely it appears so fucking vast that there's no way of grasping it. And then also the fact that there's no reference frame to it anymore.
Do you need to grasp it? Do you need to have a reference frame?
Apparently, I still feel like I do.
Yeah. Yeah, good seeing, right?
And
so seeing that, can you explore the possibility of just not grasping? Not framing? Would it be okay if you didn't grasp? Would it be okay if you didn't frame?
I'm not. I think in theory yes, but I'm still processing the whole thing. I'm still like pretty shaken up. I'm not in a to really feel like I can fully integrate it yet. I'm still experiencing like little tremors and shaking in the body from processing all that fear after I'm now in a place where I feel a bit more safe.
Yeah, I would expect integration to come a little later.
Yeah.
The investigation, it sounds like, is already running. Great.
I don't know, but that was a pretty big ordeal, that train ride today.
Yeah. Well, I know that you do well with handling sensations. We've spoken about that lots, right?
What else? Like in a way, what else was I to do?
Yeah. Well, you say that, right? That's where you've come to in your practice, but there's lots of other things you could do, like freak the fuck out.
I did.
You did?
In a way, yeah. On the inside, I was freaking out pretty damn much.
Okay.
Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
What did you do with the freaking out?
Tense up mostly.
Okay.
Physically.
You weren't looking? You weren't investigating? It would surprise me to hear that you weren't looking and investigating. A little maybe. I was mostly concerned with seeing what I can do to not be overwhelmed all the time by the sensations. Okay. So was this train ride that you had to go on today?
No, I didn't have to.
Okay. So you did this as practice?
I think so.
Great.
I actually I had a difficult decision to make, because I took it because Nora wanted me to, and I wasn't sure because I hadn't traveled in a long time because of being scared.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Yesterday I was actually pretty chill, like moving around my more familiar areas with more ease and shit. And I also talked to some guys on the True Freedom server, and after 4 people, including Nora, told me to take the trip because I was very undecided. wanted to avoid such a difficult experience like it was pretty badly, but I also
my suggestion would be a smaller event or a smaller trip, starting smaller, right, and then getting bigger, because Alex will remember this one, when we're drinking from the fire hose, all that phenomena comes in. It's not the optimum condition for practice.
Yes.
Right. Would like to have a handle on that valve to say, well, let me slow things down a little, and maybe that's a walk or a short car ride when you're in control of the vehicle.
Yeah. I kind of feel like I got my ass kicked a bit today. But I'm also, and this is one of the things that baffles me again and again. Somehow I'm still here, still breathing, still standing.
Still coming to see Sangha, right? Still coming to talk about it openly and investigate it.
I wanted to do this badly today because I felt I really needed it.
Good. Yes.
That's good.
Very
good job, man.
Yeah.
Very good. Is there anything more, Doug?
Nah, there isn't much more to say about it. I'll make way on the stage for someone else.
Well, before we finish with that thread, do you feel like you could begin a kind of practice that involves short journeys, small journeys, maybe not so far from home, whatever a baby step looks like?
Yes, I could, and I even have. But maybe this was a bit much of an increment in the step.
Well, so now you know, right? And that's no different to any other kind of practice, right? We're experimenting all the time. So one time we might try not enough, the next time we might try too much, and that's how we find the middle way.
Yeah, I'll have to make the way back in a few days, but I really don't want to think about it right now because all it's doing is stressing me out even more.
Well, there's your practice again, right? So if even the thought of it brings symptoms of anxiety, well, here's an opportunity to practice. Great. And framing it in the context of practice, right? I'm not going on a train ride. I'm practicing. Now the whole thing is it has a different flavor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. Well done for being so brave. Well done for sharing all of that so openly.
Yeah.
We're trained, aren't we, to think that there's something wrong with us if we're scared, but that's faulty.
Oh boy, I still have that one as well a lot.
And yet here you are sharing.
Guilt for feeling guilty for suffering a lot.
Oh really? Okay. That kind of surprises me because you're so good at sharing about it.
Yeah. And yet it's there.
Nice job testing your boundaries, says Rick.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It is there.
So it's there, but perhaps not to the degree that it might have been in the past. Certainly, I remember a time where I wouldn't have told anyone that I was scared.
I'm also. It varies greatly. Sometimes there also is a point of being like, fuck it. This is too much right now. I don't give a shit. I need to get it out somehow. Even today I realized, like on the train when I kind of had to sit up and walk a bit and stuff, or just behave in a way that might be like someone else could notice it and wonder about it. I noticed myself in that frame of thought, but I was like, nah, man, I'm gonna do now what I need to kind of get through this and screw what others.
Yeah, great. Well, once again, brother, I feel like your how to say it, as much as the symptoms are symptoms of struggle and distress, you're still able to report with such clarity about what's going on. Once again, we have another of these situations where you're reporting dukkha everywhere, and yet I don't really feel concerned for you.
That's interesting. There is like this quality of just observing it all is pretty present. Yes.
Yeah, and that it's that clarity that gives me faith that you will find your way through all of this.
I think it has also saved me a number of times already from just being like at the verge of kind of losing it completely, but then not losing it completely because something's there that prevented it.
Well, I think it's likely that seeing, if we're in a situation where we're freaking out and our concept of what's going on is that we're rather like a leaf being blown about on the wind, that all of that stuff out there really does have the power to make us feel these things without relief or mercy, then we might just think that it's going to continue endlessly. We've no outlets such as our Sangha call in the evening. We've no outlets such as our clear seeing by which we can see all of those sensations as object. It's just all happening.
It
We're
has
at the mercy of it.
Felt this merciless, but there's also sometimes there's also
see our mercilessness.
Yeah, this kind of quality about it, like today, where I was like, man, I can't really do anything about it right now anyway.
So there's a surrender quality.
In a way.
So I may as well. Sorry.
In a way, it certainly didn't feel like it, but I still chose certain things over other things.
Right. So there's a degree of surrender. Also, that actually sounds like a degree of control. The right kind of control. I chose certain things over other things. So in a sense, now the image that comes is of the the drowning swimmer who's being thrown down the rapids, who certainly isn't going to be able to swim against the current, but might be able to direct the body to grab onto a branch or two.
Yeah,
maybe that's
and I was also fortunate Nora there to just distract me a little or just share that I'm having a hard time. Much of what's actually happening is hard to put into words, but
well, so you say, but
that I'm not doing so well right now is enough to just take the edge off a smidge.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you say that you're not able to put a lot of it into words. I know it's difficult, and yet your reportage is always wonderful from where I'm sitting. Well done. Well done.
Thanks.
Hey, Ron. Good to have you. Hey, Robert.
How's it going?
Good to see you guys. It's going well. Ron, I received your text. I didn't get back to you because I'm pretty much offline for a week or 10 days now. Man. But I wanted to come and do this. And I'm glad I did because there's 9 of us. How wonderful.
Yeah. I'm glad you're here, Dad. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Always. Welcome back, Carl.
Hey guys.
Good to see you again. Does anyone else have anything they want to share?
I might have something.
Right.
So I'm gonna try to word this as clearly as I can because this might take me a bit of time.
Sure.
today I woke up and I just decided I'm not gonna go to work. I'm like, I just didn't want to deal with the dukkha inside of the work that creates. So I'm just moving to seclusion myself for today, just to see how I feel. I've been struggling with this, with ānāpānasati practice recently, because I'm looking at my mind and I'm seeing my mind, and even using the words like my mind is a bit crazy to me, because I'm identifying like it's as something as mine when it's not even there. Like I'm not seeing the mind, but yet I'm claiming it all the time, clinging and clinging and clinging. But then when it comes to the body, I'm able to detach myself from my body, or detach myself from experiences. I'm not claiming experiences or any sensations in my body anymore. But when it comes to the mind, I'm still clinging to the mind. And that causes like, so much confusion, because I'm not sure how even if I say I can let it go, because there is no I. So I'm really mind boggled by this whole thing, because I've been, even that language I use with myself when I talk, I try to avoid like I, me. Whenever I spot that, I'm like, what is this? Well, why am I creating this false language within myself? When it comes to the mind, I'm freely using I, my mind. I want to do this. I feel that.
Yeah.
But with everything else, I don't feel like that.
Great. So I can't possibly know enough about what's going on to say this with any certainty, but I wonder if it might be that the tidiest way to say this is that it might be a head-heart thing. Great teacher called Adyashanti talks about 3 levels of knowing: head, heart, and gut. And it sounds like it might be the case, Carl, that you know that the body isn't you on a heart or a gut level, but that to say that the mind isn't you might still be a head level. You know theoretically that the mind isn't you, but perhaps you've not quite seen through that yet. And it sounds like that's the kind of frustration that might occur, where I'm saying I all the time with regard to the mind. I know there's not a mind. If you see that directly, there's no problem anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does that sound?
Yeah, I feel I again, once I say I feel like I don't see it directly. It just pops up and I cling to it. But with everything else, I'm able to separate it. There's more like moments. I have more space, more distance between those things.
Well, can I actually butt in here and say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, Rob.
So a little while back, Dan was telling me about how the mind functions based off of pattern recognition and pattern execution, basically. And, you know, upon pondering that for a little, one of the things that I came to realize, one of the reasons it's so hard to disidentify from the mind is because you're trying to see the bare sensations of reality as it is. But the thing is, the mind has a pattern execution system for when these sensations come up. And what I've come to see is that the mind, you kind of identify with that pattern execution. And so whenever a sensation comes up, your brain generates a reaction.
That does make sense. If you don't mind asking a question. So essentially, I feel like this is one of the things where I was struggling in my practice. Struggling is a funny word to me. Until I came out according to the Dhammarato, and I was introduced into gladdening the mind, and ānāpānasati, I can't even say the word yet, way of gladdening the mind, because I feel like that's the missing factor. But at the same time, I feel not a lot, but I keep noticing myself in a different ways, that I'm able, as I said, detach myself from my body, detach myself from sensations and emotions. But the mind, as Ron probably said, is still creating those habits and patterns. Yet I'm still clinging to it. So I feel like I'm just not practicing it correctly with the gladdening the mind, or I'm just still stuck in a pattern.
I'm wondering about perhaps trying to simply replicate whatever success that you're having with the body. say you're able to disidentify from the body. Well, the body is just sensation. It's something observed, same as the mind, or what we might call the mind in a moment. I suppose the word mind is problematic because it can mean so many different things. But in a moment, you've got experience, and some of that experience we call body, and some of that experience we call mind. I wonder if you could look at whatever part of experience in a moment you're calling mind in the same way as you're looking at body. Yes, Scott?
Oh yeah, just to add on to that, like just as bodily sensations are seen as sensations, thoughts are actually themselves tangible sensations too. It's just that usually you think you are like the linear mental talk. So like you identify as the mental talk, so it's easier to see like bodily sensations as sensations. But the mental talk is actually a tangible sensation that's appearing in awareness too. So if you can look a little bit closer at thoughts like the moment they arise and catch them, like which that comes with practice. Like the more you do it, the better you get. You can actually see that even those are like, it's a tangible sensation, just like appearing. Same as a bodily sensation or mental imagery.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you're right. I think I'm just missing the gladdening the mind factor still, because I only been practicing this for like maybe a month or so. So I'm still not cleaning out my mind as efficiently as I should be, I guess, before, and I'm not seeing the thoughts as they come as quick as I could be.
Well, there's a should in there.
Yeah.
Right, which is always tricky territory. Hey, DJ.
Hey.
And yes, there was something else in there that got my attention. Rick, did you have something to say that became nothing to say?
Well, that happens a lot, doesn't it? I just want to, I'm not sure if it directly addresses it, but I would like to mention that in my experience, what I've seen is that certain sensations and reactions, like the moment of identification seems to happen at different speeds. And I know when it comes to, thoughts or thinking, it happens so rapid. Like with physical sensations, I guess I notice it's a little bit of a slower process. So it's a bit easier to disassociate. But when it comes to thoughts, I find it's so rapid that it's really tricky to slow down that sort of like a tape. But again, I think that's just one of those things that comes with practice, with noticing, with observing. But when I understood, or as I understand this phenomenon that things run at different rates, I kind of give myself a break when it comes to certain aspects of the practice, and I say, well, I'm at a point where I feel like I've progressed to a point where I can, with relative ease, not associate with these particular sensations or phenomenons. But when it comes to things like what you're describing, Carl, things happen so quickly. It's a bit like what you were describing with the fire hose, that it takes a lot longer, I think, in general, to slow everything down and to recognize, oh, okay, that's not part of, that's nothing to associate with the I or whatever. I don't know if that was helpful, but I don't know.
It was, yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, Carl.
Hey.
Do you mind if I give you a little tip that I learned from Dhammarato recently?
Of course.
Okay, so something that it's been helping me too is that I forgot what it was.
Yes. You know, maybe that was the tip to forget about it.
There was something along the lines of that, to be honest with you.
A live demonstration.
I love it when this
Awesome.
happens, honestly. I'm like, well, that's
Awesome.
pretty great. Great. All right. There's nothing to think about.
Thanks, man.
I really enjoyed that. It's a good tip for us all. I don't know, I forgot. Wonderful.
Robert, you had a hand up that went down.
Yeah, so I have two questions. The first question is for you, Dan, is can I vape in the Sangha?
Oh, goodness. I had never even considered making any rules.
Yeah, of course.
So I appreciate your respectfulness, Robert, but I still have no intention of making any rules.
Last time I was
Thank you.
called Dhammarato, I took a couple hits of my vape. He didn't care at all.
Well, there
Robert,
you go.
by the way, I wasn't
cool with vaping. We're cool with vaping.
Robert, I wasn't
Great,
poking
thanks, guys.
fun or anything at you, mate. I just the synchronous, like just you saying that, it just just brought a laugh out of me. So thanks.
Yeah,
for
that's fine.
thanks
It
for the
was a
fun.
pretty funny question.
Yeah.
My other question is for Scott. He said something that I found really interesting, which was that when you're noticing the body sensations, if you identify as the linear thought process, it makes it easier to notice the body sensations. So my question is, if I'm trying to notice and disidentify from the linear thought process, is it a good idea to identify with the body sensations? Like, does
No.
it work vice versa?
No. So like, it's like you played video games before, right?
Yeah.
So like when you first start at a video game, you're pretty like slow at it. Like you're pretty clunky. You're not used to like the rules of the game and the controls. So like you react a little bit slower, and like you're gonna lose in the beginning. Like you're not gonna catch the thoughts as they come. The point is not to identify as another perception and go to and disidentify from other perceptions. The point is to disidentify from whatever perception is arising in that moment. So it's like, but it's like a video game where your reaction time gets faster and faster the more you do it. So it's like, if in the moment it's a bodily sensation that's coming into awareness, you disidentify from that. If it's a thought, from that. Sometimes there's not thoughts. Sometimes there's not bodily sensations. Sometimes there's not feelings. Sometimes there's all of them at the same time. But the point is, like going pew pew pew, like getting them faster and faster. And at a certain point, like it becomes like almost a natural, like easier process, because like in the same way you get really good at a video game, you just start to go into like flow state and just do it.
Yeah, you're like on autopilot, just like mindful of it.
Yeah,
is disidentifying the same as being mindful, or is there like a second step? Like you notice it and then disidentify, or is it the same?
The noticing is the disidentifying. So you
it's the same.
You notice it, you're seeing it. Whereas before, if you think you are it, you're not actually noticing it.
Yeah, because you are not anything that you can experience. So within putting it into your awareness that you're able to experience it, it kind of goes to show you that there's you there that is experiencing.
Well, indeed,
But
and if you look hard enough,
I do need to like consciously
down until there's nothing left.
Say that again, Dan.
Right.
I said, if you look hard enough, you'll whittle it down until there's nothing left.
Yeah, until you experience the experiencer.
That would be
like
Nirodha.
The flip into the witness, right?
It breaks down. Subject-object relativity breaks down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and indeed, subtractive process. Yeah, it breaks down. You're seeing, making everything object. And I created a practice for myself around exactly this at one point, to take a snapshot of my entire experience, and then anything that I could see was of course object. So then I would look for the experiencer of that object. I would look for the subject. Well, if I can see that now, that's object. So I would then look again, okay, where's the subject? Now that's object. And you keep going and going and going and going and going until, and again, it has this game-like quality. Scott, I loved your pew 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 kind of like the sound effects, right? And Carl, I suspect that might be the key to what you might be missing right now, is that game-like quality, which is indeed gladdening the mind.
Yeah, and honestly, I think kind of like comparing the path itself to a video game does make it easier, because
it's a great,
yeah, because you're just trying to play the game.
Yeah.
There's no like seriousness in it.
And as soon as we look at it that way, it is that way, right? As soon as it becomes whack-a-mole, then off we go. Right? Yeah.
I'm Dan.
I actually played some like first-person shooter games again recently after a long time. And when I kind of snapped out of it, suddenly everything was like, holy shit, is this actually a first-person video game?
Go meta with it.
Well,
It's
yeah,
a
that kind of
experience of a first-person expence.
Yeah, it got my attention earlier, Doug, when you were talking about about the world outside being like a movie. Yeah, is that so bad? I mean, great, cool. Let's call it a movie. Let's watch it as though it's a movie.
Yeah, no,
Let's enjoy
I
that.
like seeing it like that as well. Kind of
Yeah.
like your visual perception just being another screen.
I'm thinking about us all sort of grabbing bags of popcorn now and going and wandering around outside.
Good work there, officer. You found him, detective. What was he doing? No, he was vaping and eating popcorn.
Dan, can I run something by you?
There really is a lot of us.
There's loads of us. Yes, of course, Alex, you can run something by me.
So, it's interesting. Today, you know, I woke up and I felt like the House of Cards video game, whatever you want to say, just went away and was gone, fell down.
Bye-bye.
And before, when that would happen, there'd be like more reality to it. There'd be like, oh wow, like I'm fucked. I got to call Dan, or I got to take a breath, or I got to do something. And I just like noticed that too. So I saw that too, and I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna take. I'm just gonna enjoy these breaths right here. We're gonna do a little reset. And I was able to feel good. And as soon as I felt good, I did not hesitate. I congratulated myself immediately. I was like, oh, great. All right. Feeling good now. And then, you know, there'd be like some unwholesome thoughts there. And the unwholesome thought that has been more or less coming up in the past 24 hours is like, I don't know how to relax. Or I can't relax now, or I don't remember what it is to relax. Whereas before, I would be able to like see the unwholesome thought and see all of the like the doing of it, the doing of the thinking, and be like, oh, okay, I could just relax. And yesterday, I think that's kind of like actually what took me out, because I started to believe the thought. I started to believe the thought that I don't know how to relax. Well, at least I can see that, right? So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, really honestly, I kind of just came to like a surrender moment today, where it's just like, all right, okay, I see it. You're looking for a standard. You're looking for practice to be the same way it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
You want things to be different than they are now. You want to feel a little bit better. This joy isn't good enough. And I was like, as soon as I saw it, it's like, okay, all right, this is good enough. This is good enough. This is good enough right here. And then of course, you know, there's the thought, well, is it really good enough? Or what happened to my practice? I'm losing my progress. No. There it is again. That's okay. You just relax from that. And it's really is like it's It's like a fucker. It's a little fucker. It's just trying to fuck with you. And it's like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I know how to, I'm fine.
Wow.
I'm fine. Okay? I'm all right.
Wow. Wow. The benefit of us recording these calls is we can wind the clock back a month or two and compare this little fucker to where Alex was a month or two ago. And I think Alex will be pleased.
Yeah, and that's what that's true.
That's
right?
right. Every time Rich says
It's
something,
like,
crap.
he comes back.
Sure.
But,
So
no,
Alex
you're
is
right.
gonna spawn camp.
And
You gotta
that's
be a
what.
dirty spawn camper, Alex.
Spawn
What?
camping.
You gotta be a
Spawn
dirty
killer.
spawn camper.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, it's interesting, you know. Sometimes I'll like let go completely. It's like, all right, that's it, I'm done. And then the next thought will come up. Oh no, you got to do something. Nope, I'm done. And you know, it can keep coming. And then in the moment when I least expect it, I'll be like sitting there on my toilet, taking a dump, and my eyes will be closed, and there it all is. There's that peace. There's that tranquility. There's that like
Shitting meditation.
everything's fine.
Oh yeah.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
So
Shitting meditation is in the suttas.
Really? Wait, really?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure if you can search the entire Access to Insight or Sutta Central, but if you search defecation, you'll find a passage on shitting meditation. Yeah.
Damn, I had
Yeah,
no
no,
idea.
there's a book
Shot more
called
than
The Buddha
once.
Poops that you can buy.
.com.
So
Everybody
I mean,
poops.
Dan, I feel like sometimes when I say things now, instead of like being hungry for a solution, I'm kind of like enthusiastically sharing the
Yes,
experience
I see
and
that.
what I'm observing.
Yeah.
But
I see that.
I guess that's great. Thank you. But I guess like what I was looking for was just, yeah, I don't know, anything you could say to make it a little
How
bit.
about a pat on the back? How
That's
about
fine.
one of these? Oh,
That'll do.
Well,
That'll
I think that pattern recognition tip also applies to this, you know, kind of trying to see what it is that makes these thoughts arise. Because it is just a pattern, you know, your brain reacting to some stimuli.
Oh, yeah, I remembered now. The other thing that I wanted to say is, Dan, I don't know if you remember, but before you went on vacation, I told you about how I was able to like see this thought as like just a belief. Actually, I was able to see the thought itself as just a belief in the existence of an I that's thinking this thought. And without that belief, it all falls down. Now, for a couple days, I was able to kind of like use that as a frame of reference, but I went back to it, you know, and like I can't see it the same way that I saw it before. Some of those thoughts are
Keep going.
Yeah.
You had an XP boost for a couple days there. Now you're back to the grind.
And yeah, and I guess the question would be, and like the answer to the, so I'll say this, the question is, and then the answer to the question that I made, and we'll see if you have a better one. But the question was, would you recommend keep like practicing to get back to that place where I could see the belief and let it all fall apart from there, or just follow dukkha-nirodha, which in this moment, for me at least, would probably just be to relax. Because what I noticed through experimentation, when I kept going back to that thought, and kept going back to that frame of reference, it was causing more dukkha, because it was like, oh, there's a job to do now, there's something to get back to.
Practice should ever be trying to go back to something that you had previously attained. You know, because then it's another form of chasing. You say, oh, I've experienced this before, why isn't it here now?
Exactly.
And you try looking for something that's not there, honestly. And you know, that kind of clouds you from what is right here, right now.
Yeah, like you have to start again from scratch every time.
right? Every moment is fresh. And so, Alex, you had the experience there of following that compass of dukkha-nirodha. And you used your compass to determine your practice.
I did. And I am. Yes.
Yeah. That's everything that you and I have been discussing these past months.
Yeah, rather than what Alex wants or what Alex craves, or what I just like, nope, dukkha-nirodha. Just gonna relax right now. Just gonna relax right now.
Yeah.
This is good enough.
It sure is.
I think it's also important not to try to force a certain state of mind or a certain type of emotion. Like every single sensation, every single experience is a good practice for insight. If instead of focusing on the specifics of the situation, you focus on the three characteristics of sensate experience, which is impermanence, and then dukkha, and no self. Every single sensation, every single experience is an opportunity to investigate further into these characteristics of sensate experience.
Yeah, and I think the reason why this question arose for me, Ron, is because that's something I'm very interested in, and I see the value and the benefit of that, because when it happens, when that clear seeing happens, it's so stark. It's holy shit, this is fucking incredible.
It's a holy shit moment.
The holy shit moment. But to your point, if I go on investigating and looking for that stuff and that's causing dukkha, it's probably best to just relax.
Because you have to realize that might have been a holy shit experience, but like all other experiences, it is impermanent. It will arise and pass away. There's no such thing as continuity almost. It's just another experience. And when you try reaching back for it, now you're starting to be picky about what you want to experience instead of just experience it, regardless of what the context of your experience is.
So I guess how do we know when it's appropriate to just relax and appropriate to investigate? And
investigate in a relaxed way.
It's always
right.
appropriate.
And that's kind of
the other.
And that's kind of what I did.
Because sometimes you'll be relaxed and sometimes you won't be relaxed. But whether you are or not, they're both good opportunities to investigate. Whether you're happy or you're sad, those are both good opportunities to investigate. Whether you're angry or you're peaceful, they're just emotions, sensations.
I don't know about that, because
if you're happy, you're going to be too busy being happy. There's no need to investigate at that point. You need to investigate dukkha. You don't need happiness is the answer to dukkha. There's no need to. You just enjoy it. You just. That's
so
what
why
it's
not
all about.
investigate happiness? If you investigate dukkha and then you become happy and you don't investigate that, you're like, oh, I've got to where I want to be. You're favoring one experience over another.
Well, yeah, I favor happiness over dukkha. That's my.
I got to be is another dukkha, isn't it? Because you're claiming you achieved the goal. I got to be happy, so let's investigate happy. There's just another dukkha thought, isn't it? It's setting yourself up for failure. I got happy, so you're saying what I was doing before, why I was not happy before. It arises more questions out of investigating into that instead of just.
It also implies an additive process as opposed to a subtractive one. Happiness is what's left in the absence of dukkha, as opposed to happiness being something that we construct and have to maintain.
And that's kind of why I asked when to relax, when to investigate, because of course when I'm really relaxed, there's no need to investigate.
Yeah.
So it is kind of so it makes sense then why there'd be that confusion there.
Yeah.
But then still, there is an importance to investigation. So,
well, investigation is a tool, right? And once we've built the house, we don't continue dragging the tools around. We enjoy the house.
Okay.
Now that still actually is an additive image, but I think you can all
Yeah, that's another. It reminds me of. So the investigation is like the thorn that removes the thorn.
Yes.
Mhm.
Once you remove the thorn, you don't need the thorn that you removed the thorn with anymore. You get let it go.
Uh-huh.
That reminds me, I don't know if any of you guys, I'm sure you guys could relate. I just would love to share this because this is something I'm proud of. This is congratulations. But in the beginning of all this, a lot of the practice was much more regimented, like militaristic. Like, I got to notice the unwholesome thought, then I got to put a wholesome thought, then I got to gladden the mind. If I don't, I'm a bad boy. Oh, there's another unwholesome thought. And now it's more like, oh, I can see the whole process happening, and just after a while, just relax from the process. Like, oh, that's all right, no problem. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, there's nothing to do. Oh, I know you think there's something to do, but we're good here. I'll just relax.
Exactly
That's
as we would
beautiful.
expect. And Scott, you used the analogy of the video game, but indeed it goes for learning any skill, doesn't it? When we say we go for our first boxing lesson, we're going to be, whoo, okay. That's a pretty charged context, isn't it? Right? But then you look at Floyd Mayweather in the ring against another champion boxer, and he's cool as a cucumber. Aikido. Right? Rick can actually speak from experience here. What was your first Aikido lesson like, Rick?
It was painful. I didn't know how to fall. People were throwing me every which way and trying to explain how to like land safely, but I still limped away from that class and for the next 2 months until I learned how to properly fall. And that wasn't even the offensive part. That was just the defensive part, so to speak. So yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Rick,
but then
Rick, did you read Mastery by George Leonard?
No, I haven't come across that. No.
It's a book not specifically about Aikido, but the author is an Aikido master and uses examples from Aikido in the process of the book, and it's a real cool read. I really recommend it.
Okay, yeah, zap it in the chat and I'll check it out. I'm always interested to see how some of those principles apply, so cool, yeah.
So the first Aikido lesson is painful.
Yeah, but it's also like a bit of an awakening too, because all of my previous martial arts skills were made pretty much useless. So it was a humbling experience at the same time because I'd already been involved in striking arts for 15 years.
Right.
And they nullified everything I had or thought I had. And so that was a great experience to realize that, here I am sitting at 3rd degree black belt in my school with 15 years, having run my own classes and everything, and then going in and just getting flipped around like a fish out of water. And so it was phenomenal. Wow. It was phenomenal. Yeah.
That's something you guys have to understand. The first lesson is don't get hit. It's just learning the lesson that's painful.
Is that from dodgeball? If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
It could be. So then many Aikido lessons occur.
Yeah.
And cut to Rick walks into, is it a dojo in Aikido?
Oh yeah, it's still a dojo. Yeah, they're still using the Japanese, yeah.
I didn't want to use the wrong term. And now Rick is cool as a cucumber.
And even outside of the dojo, it's not necessarily when you step on the mat, but there was a couple of situations that I had to diffuse using, I wouldn't say actual physical ability, but using more the training in order to diffuse some potentially violent situations and remain as quote cool as a cucumber in the refrigerator, and it worked out very well.
Good, great. So there you have it, Alex. That's the path that you're on. In the beginning, the skill is new and we're unskilled and there's a lot to process and learn, and then over time we relax. Dhammarato talks about the musicians, right, who in the beginning must have distraction-free, dedicated practice time. Putting that new student in front of an audience out in the real world would be a terrible idea. They need that distraction-free, private, dedicated practice time where they can put their whole attention on being very deliberate with what they're doing with the instrument. Then comes maybe they rehearse with other instrumentalists, but again in private, right? They're skilled enough now to start thinking about what other people are doing as they do what they're doing. Then they're ready to perform. And then finally, Dhammarato uses the example of Louis Armstrong, who is always seen playing. He's just playing as if with a toy. Completely relaxed, always.
But I'd like to add something to that a bit. I would also say that it's important at whatever stage you are to enjoy it, whatever stage you are. Because, you know, and this is something that I learned early on in any pursuit that I had, was to not be anxious about getting to a level of mastery. Because once I arrived there, I knew that it wasn't going to be enough, quote, enough. Instead, it was to be enjoy the practice as a beginner or as a, you know, intermediate or an advanced or whatever. But at each stage to find that joy or enjoyment, because then it didn't matter where you were on that, you know, in the line, and you weren't looking towards getting, okay, I'll be happy when. You won't be making that statement, I'll be happy when. It doesn't, that's not even important. It's like, I'm practicing, I'm happy. Boom, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe?
Rick, that just reminded me of a question. Like, as a language teacher, would you have tips for how, when learning a language, to be like, to enjoy it more at like kind of a beginner middle stage? Because I find that, yeah, I'm not very skilled at this. Just from learning other skills in the past, I generally learned them by beating myself up into submission instead of enjoying them. So I wonder if you had any tips as a teacher.
Yeah, I'd say that one of the mistakes that a lot of language learners make as adults that children don't make is that children love to copy what they hear as soon as they hear it. They apply it almost immediately without any self-consciousness, right, about like how they're going to look. They're not worried about embarrassing themselves. But as adults, we don't want to look foolish or stupid or ignorant. And because language is by its necessity a communication tool, it's very easy for us to fall into that trap. And so I suppose the way to enjoy it is to, you know, use the phrases as quickly as you can, even if it doesn't seem right. And oftentimes it will be, there's less of a chance there's far less of a chance of you know, making a fool of yourself than there is just having a good laugh with everybody. So I don't know, for me it's just about taking it and using it as soon as you hear it, like, you know, and that way you'll not only increase your vocabulary, but you'll increase your enjoyment, and maybe you'll even surprise some people and yourself with what you're able to, you know, what you're able to say. Yeah, and I don't know, other than that, it's, you know, language is a little bit like collecting, but it's not just collecting, it's also about showing it. You know, not showing it off, but showing it. So it's a process of collecting and showing until it's already yours, you know? So I don't know if that helps at all. But yeah, I mean, that's the best way to, like, it's the best way to gamify it. And again, children, they're like our best teachers because of the natural way that they learn languages. Until about the age of, I'd say 9 or 10, and then we have to say, okay, what are they doing that we're not doing in order for it to seem to come so naturally to them. And one of those things is that they're able to speak without a lot of self-consciousness. They steal the language and they use it for their own, rather than like just recording it down into a notebook and then like, okay, is this the right situation? Oh, can I use it? No. No, it's like trying to remove those doubts, and even if you're sure it's wrong, say it anyway. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's
Beautiful.
fun. The mistakes are fun. The mistakes are fun and they're funny. And they're like, a lot of people think that you're going to offend someone, but that's all in the movies. There's very little chance that you're going to say a word or a phrase that's actually offensive to someone by mistake. That's only for comic
they just laugh. Generally, they just laugh at you.
Exactly.
If you do.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. And
serious.
And if it's a game, they're laughing with you because you find it funny too. Rather than them laughing at your mistake, you're both laughing at the fact that you're god awful at the language and you're still working on it. It's fine, and it's fun. So I don't know. That's my advice.
Okay, that's helpful. Yeah, just in general. Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead, Joe.
Okay, I was just gonna say, in general, I have trouble learning almost like any skill I choose, just because like my parents described me from a very young age as like an anxious child, and I was always like the best student in the class that was like paranoid about ever making a mistake at a very young age. I was like planning my retirement account when I was like 8, and like, so it's like a constant sort of like actually learning how to do something that I guess from a very young age. Of course, when you're 4, then it's not like this, but even as a kid, my parents described me that I just wasn't a kid, I was just that anxious kid who was like always perfect and always like had to be the best student and just like constantly studying, constantly trying to be the best at whatever I did.
Right. You have to revel in the messiness that is language.
Yeah.
Because it's all about, it's not even just about words, it's about meaning and context too. And so, a lot of it is just, just get down and dirty with it. It's great. It's great. It's a great experiment. It's a great chance to investigate. It's a great chance to communicate. Yeah.
I just wanted to vouch for what Rick was saying. I've been doing a very childlike attempt at learning some Bengali with Debbie and her parents. I'll hear them saying stuff on the phone and I don't have a clue, and I'll just repeat sounds and her parents laugh without fail. They're always hilarious. I don't know, I might be like starting halfway through a word, but slowly I kind of pick little bits up, and then
like a baby does, right?
Pronunciation is always wrong, but then Deb will correct me and I'll have fun, kind of just that. I think we kind of lose the fun, don't we, of just making noises, right? You look at a really small child and they're right, because they're like, what's all this? What's I got lips and a tongue and they don't know what they're called yet, but they've got all this hardware, and they're just exploring it, right? I spend a lot of time trying to encourage new drum students to just wave their arms around and see what happens. And sure enough, the kids are more likely to do that than the grown-ups, because the grown-ups have an idea that if they're a grown-up, they ought to already be good at what they're doing, which is just absurd if you think about it, right? You go for a first lesson in anything, and that assumption that you ought to somehow be any good at all is just crazy. And yet that there's that inhibition, isn't there? And it's all schooling. It's all schooling that teaches us that. If it weren't for the way that school does their thing, we would retain that natural learning right the way through.
I sometimes make hard noises for fun.
Yes, Rick. What was that, Doug?
I sometimes just make fart noises for fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Try that on the train. Right? I bet it'll help.
It'll definitely give you the seat next to you.
Yeah. You might even end up with an empty carriage.
Those are vacant anyway because of Corona, man.
Scott, you got a hand up.
Oh yeah. I wanted to circle back to something Rick was saying because it was very, very important. What he was talking about how every stage, every part of the path should be enjoyed. So whatever part of the path you're on is the path itself, and so it's not as if we are meditating to become enlightened. The meditation is the enlightenment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a very important point and something to keep in mind. Whatever stage you're in, there's like tons of dukkha, there's no dukkha, whatever is going on. All right, Alex.
That's great, Scott. Thanks.
I feel like it's a catalyst as well, like satisfaction. Like whatever other technique you're doing, if you do it while you're happy, it's more effective.
So what I was gonna say, we were talking about it earlier before Joe asked this question about the language. We were talking about how the skill of practice changes, and I was curious if, in your guys' experience, and you too as well, Dan, if the enthusiasm, the intensity of that enthusiasm changes at all. Because for me, I remember like when I was throwing the axe, it was like I was playing, it was like when I was a 14-year-old sitting in my basement, it's 3 a.m. and I've been playing video games for 10 hours and I'm not getting up until I beat this boss battle. I'm having so much fun. It's exhilarating. I got Doritos and Mountain Dew next to me and I just can't wait. But like this, how it is now is like, oh, okay, I see you, berater. I'll just relax. So there's an enthusiasm, but it's not like as much as it was before. And I think the unwholesome thought that's showing up for me now sometimes is like, oh, you gotta have more enthusiasm, otherwise you're gonna miss it. You know what I mean? And I know that's just an unwholesome thought too. So I was curious if that's kind of like the natural way of things.
Yeah, I would say follow your enthusiasm. So at any given moment, if you're like forcing yourself to meditate, but you really rather be watching Netflix, go fucking watch Netflix, dude. Like follow your enthusiasm. Like that's gonna be more skillful. Like that's gonna be more skillful than beating yourself up and like doing something you actually don't want to do. Because if you're doing something you don't want to do, like that's like almost counterintuitive to what meditation really is.
Now there is that, and I appreciate you saying that. But in the beginning, there was I don't want to do this. But what I would be
okay. Let me counter that. It's like learning an instrument. Okay, in the beginning, you're putting in effort, right? It's difficult to learn the instrument, but you want to learn the instrument.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be here if you didn't really want to do this. You would be in the world doing something else. So it may seem like at times, I'm not saying it's always, there's never effort, but it's an effortless effort in the sense that you really want to be doing it.
Yeah.
You're choosing to practice meditation.
Yeah. I guess maybe, sorry. I appreciate your guys' input. Dan, I think this question would be better suited to you because I remember when you told me specifically, you said the practice is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is the practice. And when you said that, I think something went off in my head as an interpretation like, okay, enthusiasm has to look a certain way.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this is one of those you said moments where the teacher starts to sweat.
No, there's no sweating over there. I'm pretty sure.
Hey, Nora. Hey Nora, good to see you. No, I loved everything that Scott was saying, and I think that another way to say it might be that there are stages in this that we can point to in retrospect. And I think also, Alex, you're someone who has really thrown yourself at this, but it's always going to be contained in what Scott said, which is you did that because you wanted to do it. You were enthusiastic because you wanted to be enthusiastic. You bought my image of throwing the axe because you wanted to buy it. So there's really no way to get outside of intention. It's a delusion, really, that we think that we can do something that we don't want to do. It's just not possible.
Okay.
It's the same as when people say be yourself. You can't get away from being yourself.
I think along the lines of more specifically what I mean is when an unwholesome thought shows up, right? The enthusiasm weeks ago would have been, oh, yes, I got it. Woo! And now it's more like, oh, okay. Good. That's good.
Okay.
Good to see that. I can just relax right now.
I'm failing to hear a problem here.
It's not necessarily a
You want to get it
problem.
right, right?
Well,
now your original question, if I recall, was, has the enthusiasm changed for each of us?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I struggle to find any two moments that are the same. Of course it changes.
It just became too easy for you to spot this. I mean, the curve level of your skill has gotten so good. It's like playing a video game that is too easy for you. But the levels of life will always change because it's cycling in and out. So you will have moments where you're going to be super enthusiastic to remove this dukkha or suffering, or really enthusiastic about practice. But then there's going to be easy moments where you're just like, okay. That's at least how it is for me.
I got it. Thanks, guys. It just the same thing follows that after a while it's like, just relax. Just thinking about this is dukkha. Just asking about this, just talking about this, just wondering about this, wondering if it's done right. It's just all dukkha. So just relaxing from it, and there's the practice.
You got it. And there's the smile that follows. Yeah.
Robert?
I can't remember.
Hey!
Yeah, right.
I'll be right back, guys.
Okay. Good shit, guys. That's some tasty Dhamma.
Yummy.
Nom 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 nom.
I have a different question, but other people have their hands raised.
No,
that
go
might
for
be
it.
more relevant. Okay, this was from ages and ages ago that I just didn't get a chance to say, but it was about self-inquiry. I know there's a point where you're supposed to sort of the mind is supposed to come focused and stable, and then you're supposed to switch your identification from the ego to the object of the observer, and then you become this witness that's empty of content. But I've tried to do that, and at different stages it'll have more or less emptiness. So if I have a very refined object and I make the switch, I will have a very empty sensation of being the witness. But if I have a less refined, less stable object and I make the switch, there will be more of a quality to the witness. It will be less empty. It'll still be kind of more me. And my question is sort of should I keep doing the self-inquiry to the point where it reaches this sort of perfected level before I even try to make the switch, or is it okay to try and make it when I feel I'm just satisfied with noticing or
so here's the
noticing awareness?
Classic misunderstanding that was in the very words of your question. Okay, you don't become the witness. You are already the witness. You're going to become a witness. How is that possible? Like, at what point do you switch from not being the witness to being the witness? Like,
when you take the stand.
Okay,
I don't know. There's like a weird split.
Is that it's not something that's going to be added. Like, you're not going to start that in the future. At some point, you're going to start abiding in awareness, or like whatever self-inquiry is to you in your mind. No. It's not something that needs to be added. It's something that needs to be subtracted. So all that needs to be done to for the witness to recognize itself is to stop believing not to be the witness. And that's something that you do. Yeah.
I see.
In other words, just keep noticing, Robert, and gladdening the mind, and you know, one thing that I picked up recently is I don't care. I don't care about what Alex wants, what his point of view is, what he says. I don't care if he wants sex. I don't care if he wants this food on the menu. I don't care. He's just gonna enjoy whatever. Like, that's it. Dukkha-nirodha. And you'll start to see that, like, that stuff just really doesn't matter, and thinking about that stuff is dukkha too.
I have my other question. I remembered what it was that Scott said, if you want to do Netflix and like that's what you're drawn to, like watch Netflix instead of meditate, you should go ahead and do that because it's what feels natural, it'll what make you happy now. But my question is, if someone's like really addicted to watching TV, like for example, I'm really quite addicted to scrolling Instagram, and that feels very natural, like very often, but then I wouldn't get the value of doing like more formal meditation practice. Is it a good idea to like become sort of an ascetic, or like a lay version of an ascetic, where I'd like not have access to the Netflix at all, so that that's not an option, rather than, and then I wouldn't have the, do you know what I mean? And then
depends if that causes you more suffering. Like if not having it causes you more suffering, then
well, it doesn't, like it does, but
suffering,
I guess.
Yeah.
But then I do more meditation naturally.
But then eventually meditation might be causing more suffering, because you're neglecting your other part that is telling you like, okay, I might want to relax from meditation and to sink into myself. While meditating, you're just practicing concentration if you're doing like long sitting sessions. It's really to answer for yourself. If you notice dukkha when you're meditating, or you're trying to run away from dukkha by meditating, that's another thing that I fell into a lot. I would spend like 2-3 hours just sitting, running away from my problems a lot of times.
I used to do that a lot. I'd meditate for like really long hours in the morning, because doing anything else was kind of like a bit dull and effortful, whereas meditation you can kind of just sit there and chill out, or lay down in my case.
Yeah. We try to escape like a lot of our reality that we're not comfortable with, and that's just dukkha. We're not gladdening the mind, and we're not spotting the dukkha. We're just actually secluding ourselves from it with meditation.
But okay. Yeah.
Hey,
okay.
Robert, I really appreciate you sharing all that, man, because I see so much of habits and patterns that I've recognized within myself and what you just said. So you talk about like, should I do this or should I do that? I've even like done a form of that on this call. And you're talking about like, should I become a lay person or should I be more at it, like full force power? Well, I think a better question that might give you relief, actually, hopefully, is, am I satisfied right now? Can I be satisfied right now? Start like paying attention. You know how Dhammarato says like we pay attention, like if you imagine like currency, we pay attention to like these thoughts of like thinking and wondering and hoping and expecting and futuring. And then we also could pay attention to, am I satisfied right now? No, Okay. Wow, great. I can see that. Congratulations. Let me take a breath. Your focus is like dukkha-nirodha. So dissatisfaction and the cessation of dissatisfaction. Any amount of cessation of dissatisfaction is worthy of celebration, to be congratulated as soon as you can remember, as soon as you see it, and then relish in that, savor that. Who cares about lay persons? Who cares about becoming full force power, dukkha destroyer? Who cares about all this stuff? Oh, I'm just gonna enjoy being here right now. Oh, but I can't enjoy being here right now. Oh, but I can enjoy this breath. Oh, that's a congratulations. I can congratulate myself that I can see all of this. Oh, yes. I can congratulate myself for being grateful for all this. Ah, yes. And you will be more naturally interested in that rather than all of this, should I do this, should I do that? And start seeing those thoughts, should I do this, should I do that, as dukkha is taking you away from wholeness.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Yeah. I get really caught up a lot in, and I think Scott might have pointed this out in the chat before, or no, it was Joe actually, which was like the meditation maps and the models and stuff, and because it's just like it can just become another form of like just thinking about the past and the future instead of like focusing on what I'm doing now.
Yes, brother.
Thank you.
Yes. And every time you notice that you're focusing more, even you could use that as your big milestone congratulations right now. Every time you notice that you're more focused on enjoying being here right now, right there, that's congratulations. Even if you're not enjoying it. Well, I have my attention on it though. That's better. I'm destroying dukkha right now because of that. Look at that.
Yeah.
I understand, brother. I really do.
Thank you, man.
Pew pew.
Pew pew.
Pew pew.
that
I
was really well
also-
put, Alex.
Wanted to add that, Robert, you described it kind of as an addiction. The what was Instagram stuff, spending a lot of time there, and I'd say that if you already describe it as an addiction, that there is already a substantial amount of dukkha in it, in a way, as with every addiction, and I think it could be fair to say, or to see if we can at least make a little subtle distinction that can be helpful. Because when we're kind of following our addictions, it's not something that we necessarily really would want to do at that moment, but rather something that's so habitual that it might not even serve any purpose anymore. And I think to circle back to the distinction that Scott gave quite a while back was more if we can sense that it's a bit more maybe genuine. I think we can all agree that when we are attentive and we investigate a bit, we can most of the time see whether something that we think we could do now, or that we think we're going to do now, if there is more of a force of kind of habit behind it, or a force of this is actually what I do now. Hi, Alex.
Hi, guys.
And
Yeah.
I think this distinction might also be helpful there.
That certainly sounds like
Yeah.
wisdom to me. Indeed, if we're already describing something as an addiction, I think we know that it's dukkha.
Yeah,
Or there's at least some dukkha showing up some of the time, at least, when we do those behaviors. And maybe there is a payoff as well. We're not going to do anything unless there's some kind of benefit in that cost-benefit equation. but then a lot of those things, there's also dukkha. And Robert, you just described that actually you can quite happily sit and be satisfied for long periods of time. And so, of course, there's no cost to that. And that's what's so great about practicing Dhamma, the karma that ends karma. No cost or benefit. Woo!
Yeah,
Say
that's
something to add on to this?
There's an interesting kind of there's an interesting kind of subtext to any conversation like this, which is that to say to someone who's addicted to crack, do whatever you like, is terrible advice. There is the case where someone needs intervention, but that's not any of us.
Can I
Right.
actually?
Thank you.
Can I say
Thank
something
you.
about this?
Sure.
So I just wanted to add on, based off of my own personal experience, I've come to see that telling yourself that you're addicted to something and that you have to stop it is another form of dukkha within itself, because you will still do it, but you'll feel bad about doing it and tell yourself that you need to stop.
I've got that a lot. Like, I'll just keep scrolling and I'll be like, I need to stop, I need to stop,
you're
and then
living
I'm
in
not
the
even
past
doing
or in
it.
the future. Like, I've told Dan this. I used to have serious problems with marijuana and nicotine, and I would tell myself, oh, I'm addicted, I have to stop. And that telling myself that would make it even worse. And on New Year's, I decided to quit everything cold turkey, just to see how it was. And in that, I came to realize, sometimes I would be in a position where it was right in front of me and I would want to do it, but I would tell myself, no, I quit, I can't do this anymore. And I would have a type of internal battle with myself. And I wouldn't really, it's not like I was always constantly thinking about doing it, but when it was right then and there, or if I was with some friends, I would want to, and then I would fight with myself. And I came to realize, for the most part, the body is going to do one thing, and then when you don't think it's what you should be doing, your mind is going to argue against it. So instead of trying to fight with yourself, simply be aware of what it is that you're doing right now in the present moment. And if you are doing it, ask yourself, do I want to do this right now, or am I doing it because it's what I'm used to doing? Because
right. And then
the reason. What was that?
And then the most powerful way to change the cost-benefit equation, which perhaps in a kind of status quo can keep us going back to those behaviors that we deem to be an addiction, the best way to change that cost-benefit equation is to raise our general level of satisfaction. As opposed to trying to discipline ourselves out of whatever behavior we deem to be naughty.
Yeah, but
we just learn to be satisfied without. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, let's say you just spent 3 hours scrolling on Instagram, right? And you put your phone down, you're like, damn, I shouldn't have done that. I'm addicted to Instagram. But at that point, it's in the past. You're scolding yourself on something that has already happened. Because if that thought arises while you're scrolling on Instagram, you can simply just put your phone down and then problem solved. You can tell yourself, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to do this right now.
Can I say something on that, on the topic of addictions? I find it like that unless you dissolve the sufferer still exists and he clings to these addictions. As for me, when I experience like my addictions, it's not necessarily, it's like I can see them clearly and I can see what I'm doing, but I can see my choices. I can see that I'm choosing to feel this way. I can see that I'm going into myself. I even see the traps set for myself throughout the day to fall into these addictions, but yet I still choose that. So there's some kind of clinging to the sufferer that we're not dissolving completely, that manifest in those behaviors. At least that's what I found out recently. If you're still suffering, you still have a part of yourself to dissolve. I don't know if that makes much sense, but to me,
No, it makes a lot of sense.
DJ
It
wanted
doesn't
to say
make that
something?
much sense to me, but I feel like there's something there, like in it. Like I could probably re-listen to it in a bit and get it. Bye bye.
so yeah.
Rulaj, you have something to add?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm still working,
Hey,
so
brother.
I can't be with my camera on all the time. But yeah,
Sure, sure.
something about these addictions, like I've struggled with some of them myself, also with this cell phone stuff. Well, there's a great quality about awareness that I love. That it's like you can celebrate yourself about being aware, and when you're aware, you can already start doing something about it. Like, okay, I know I spend a lot of time on cell phones, so I gotta do something, and well, doing something is the way out of it, you know. Like, yeah, what can I do? And sometimes you just want to be there. Like, I just want to lay down and be on myself, and then well, just be down, be with yourself. Like, what's the problem? If you're enjoying it, well, just be there. But when it starts to like, oh man, I like being in the cell phone so many times, and oh man, I really got to do something else. And well, just ask yourself, there's something better you can do in that time, like, or if you can just chill and be on the cell phone, like, like meditation itself. Like, I'm just gonna be there and lie and relax and chill and just browse Instagram, just browse Reddit for a while and be there, watch some videos. Like there's a phrase about this old man called Aleister Crowley that said, "Do what thou wilt." Like, do whatever the hell you want to do, man. You know, like, um, whatever makes you happy. So that's like my way out of dukkha.
Well, and indeed, there's a little confusion around the word happiness often, right? So the advice, do what makes you happy, is great when we're talking about what Bhikkhu Buddhadasa called the second kind of happiness: contentment, satisfaction, sukha, dukkha-nirodha,
Peace.
as opposed to the kind of happiness that is fleeting and comes from chasing things, getting things, being things,
Pleasure.
doing things, having things, right? So we can see very clearly that it tends to be the case that scrolling Instagram is that worldly kind of happiness, right? Where we're all sure that what we're after is that
It's the serotonin,
mundane happiness,
the dopamine.
freedom. Yeah, and it's not that dopamine is bad, right? So this isn't about smashing our phones up, never going on social media again, right? We can enjoy all of those things, but I like the idea of playing with them. So Robert, you might run little experiments, right? What happens if I don't do Instagram for a day? Let's find out. It's a fun experiment. What happens if I do a 24-hour Instagram-a-thon? Let's find
I
out.
did that yesterday.
That's hard for me.
Right? And you know, like the classic, isn't it, is the parent who discovers that their child has been smoking cigarettes and makes them smoke a whole pack, and they throw up and they don't want to smoke again, right? Maybe you'd have an experience like that. Maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you'd hear some really good Dhamma on Instagram, right? Because that's something to think about as well. I bet you're following some Dhamma accounts on Instagram, right? Yeah. So mixed bag. Here we are again. Right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good point.
DJ, I know you had a hand up like 6 hours ago.
Yeah, I was going to add perhaps a little reminder too, is like, yeah, when you're on Instagram and that thought comes up, oh, I should be meditating, right? I know this is kind of a classic thing, but just coming back, taking that deep breath and being like, okay. And maybe after a certain amount of those breaths, it'll be like, oh, okay, maybe I don't really need, the Instagram right now. I'd rather get into a little bit more seclusion. But either way, it's coming back to the breath there. And so
the seclusion sessions and getting out of it isn't like built up to be this like massive thing. Oh no, I should be meditating right now. I shouldn't be on the thing. It's like, oh wait, I recognize this. The breath comes in, and there's that. If it, you know, but I'm sure you were doing a little bit of that there, on and off, right?
Yeah. I was like kind of meditating in the background, and obviously like if I'm doing Instagram, it makes it a bit easier to meditate because it's like kind of providing like dopamine, like Ron said, like it's sort of stimulating me, so I have less hindrances already.
That's an interesting way to think about it. Instagram meditation. Why not?
Yeah,
guys, this is delightful.
Yeah.
I'm going to go now. Great to meet you who are new this evening. I don't know if you're new to Dhammarato in general or if it's just that we haven't crossed paths yet, but Scott, great to meet you. I don't know who else remains. It's kind of like Skype will give me so many people on screen, and then some people are just icons in the top. So anyway, fucking great to hang out with you all. I really enjoyed this call.
Yeah,
man. See you
Thank you. This was really helpful. Really helpful advice, Dan. Thank you very, very much.
Bye, Dan.
Good. Feel free to continue, of course. Go on and talk till the sun comes up. All right. Lots of love, guys. Bye-bye.
See you then.
Hey,
Bye bye.
Bye, Dan.